action figure enthusiast channel members out there, and everybody. Guess you don't necessarily have to be a channel member for watching today, but thank you for everyone who's joining today. Welcome to a Friday edition of TNInews Live. We've got, we're still kind of in that slow news period, but we do have several things to talk about, including the final outcome of the G.I. Joe Haslab Snowcat campaign, which ended yesterday. With all stretch goals unlocked. So it came down to the wire, but it ended up being a fairly successful campaign. So we're going to talk about that, plus new details that have come to light about the Snowcat itself. So I wanted to touch upon that today as well. But before we delve into today's news, let's just do a quick roll call, see who is in the house today. We've got Gary is in the house. Good to see you, my friend. We've got Alonzo. Let's do this. Rock out time. The masses got their snow kitty. I'm sure it was FOMO, laugh out loud. Congrats to them, but I passed on it. So hopefully you won't regret that decision. I've had that happen with the Thundercat Cat Slayer, where I passed on the original crowdsourcing and then regretted it later and paid more for it. But yes, I'm pretty happy. I backed one, so I'm pretty happy about it. Mr. Allmine, what is up? Comics 1017 is in the house. Good to see you. John is in the house. Good to see you. Paul, what is up? Good to see you. Mac Zombie is in the house. Frankie is in the house. What is up? Punk with Toys. Good to see you, my friend. All right, so let's delve into the news. And we've got, let's see, where we want to start today. Well, let's start with McFarlane Toys. So we had a couple of new pre-orders go up today for DC Multiverse. These are gold label McFarlane store exclusives, though if you're in Canada, you can get these at EB Games, which I really feel like EB Games is essentially an extension of McFarlane Toys now. But these went up. I believe they're still available. So Obsidian and Mr. Bones, yes, they are both still available. You can buy them as a set, or you can buy them individually. So these are pretty cool overall. I passed on these, but overall these are pretty cool. Mr. Bones. Actually, while he's kind of a cool looking character, I got to be honest with you, I am not really familiar with him. So kind of an obscure character, I would say. And then Obsidian as well. Now, I was wondering if these were going to show up on Amazon at some point, but it does not look like these will be offered at Amazon. But a lot of these recent items that were billed as McFarlane store exclusives have in fact turned up on Amazon. So including the Batmobile that went up earlier this week, the Pattinson movie 2022 movie Batmobile. So that went up yesterday on Amazon. It sold out quickly, as a lot of things usually do. But you could actually get this, even though it was billed as a McFarlane store exclusive, this was available on Amazon for a brief time. It is still available, is not sold out on the McFarlane store. I mentioned this on Wednesday and Wednesday's live stream, but it's worth repeating. Originally, I was saying I thought this price of this was going to be $99. That's what I had I'd heard from Toy Fair, but it looks like it's a little bit cheaper. As $79.99 is the actual price on this one. So. Let's see, what else do we have? Salome has joined us. Got a new Hiya Toys Godzilla figure, a Heat Ray Godzilla figure. Now, this has not gone up for pre-order yet, but likely will be available at places like Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth. Big Bad will probably have it up later today. Entertainment Earth might take a little bit longer. But another Godzilla from Hiya Toys you can add to your collection. Has the Heat Ray Blast and extra hands. So it seems like they're churning out new Godzilla figures on a regular basis over there at Hiya Toys. Masters of the Universe. So one thing I wanted to also update here. I guess I misread or just make like I'm used to the early bird stuff where it's like the early bird you have until the date stated, and if it doesn't reach its funding goal by then the item's not included. Mattel's doing it differently. They are doing it where anyone who backs the campaign before yesterday, the end, you basically had the end of yesterday to back the campaign. If you wanted the snake body for the Lady Slither figure, so the legs are included automatically, but only those who backed the campaign yesterday. The end of yesterday was the deadline. So if you back the campaign today or in the remaining 2 weeks that the campaign is live, you will not get the snake body. Only those that backed it in the first couple of weeks will get that. The only way, but so it's not a case of because it didn't reach the minimum funding goal. It came close. It was about 135 short of reaching the minimum funding goal. So it did get a sizable boost yesterday. And it has not yet reached its minimum funding goal, but it continues to inch closer and closer. We're at 5,887. The minimum funding goal is 6,000. So we are definitely close, but I don't know if I think what's still in doubt is whether we'll get to the first stretch goal, which is the Priest Pythonus figure at 8,000 backers. We are just 12 days to go for this campaign. But again, anyone, unless the campaign for some reason didn't get that remaining 100 or so backers in the next 12 days, which seems unlikely to me, the people who back the campaign in the first 14 days will get the Lady Slither. So it does kind of suck for those who wait. I feel like I don't really like the whole early bird thing, regardless of how you do it. If you do it the way Mattel's doing it, it means there's less incentive for people on the second half of the campaign to want to back it. You feel like you've lost out because you simply didn't back it in the first couple of days of the campaign. So I don't like that. The other way, the way I was thinking they were doing it when I thought if it didn't reach the funding goal, nobody got it, by the 14th, then if you don't reach the stretch or if you don't reach the early bird goal, then people will be like, well, screw it. I'm not going to back it anyway. So I think this early bird thing really is not that effective. I think there has, again, we saw a boost yesterday on this, but I think we would have seen that anyway. And now you've got people who might be less likely to back it in the second half of the campaign because they're going to feel like they've lost out on something. So, my advice to Mattel would be ditch the whole early bird thing. Not that I think they're going to listen to me, but anyway, like I say, the campaign will almost definitely. I had some doubts maybe this one because it was very slow going, but it picked up the pace in the last few days. But now the question is whether it'll reach its stretch goal, which I think is still quite possible. 12 days left, and as we saw with the GI Joe one yesterday, we always get those big boosts at the end. So, but right now we are just waiting for the final 100 or so to reach the minimum funding goal, which I'm thinking might happen today, if not today, sometime this weekend, I would say. This is actually brand new news, so I'm seeing this for the first time myself. But it looks like Boss Fight Studio is getting in on the Garfield Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle crossover. So again, these are from Boss Fight Studio. You may recall at San Diego Comic Con, we saw NECA was doing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Garfield crossover figure, but now, like I say, Big Boss Fight Studio is getting in on the action. So this looks like based on the Halloween episode of Garfield. Now, these are Halloween figures. Where did I? Yeah, okay. So, and then here is Garfield and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So Odie with a turtle shell and Garfield dressed up as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, kinda. So those are available for pre-order. You can get them at places like Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store. I feel like these, I feel like these will be pretty popular. We recently saw package images for their first wave of Garfield figures. So these look pretty good. I mean, if you're into Garfield, this is something you might want to check out. So again, this is the first wave. These have been up for pre-order for a while. You can get them at places like Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth. But definitely interesting that we're seeing Turtle Garfield crossover figures from two different companies. Obviously, NECA has the Turtle license, so we're getting a figure on that end of it, and then Boss Fight Studios has the Garfield license, so we're getting figures on that. So it's kind of like a shared exclusive between two companies. But Boss Fight seems to be doing, we're getting Garfield and Odie. So we're getting a little bit more from Boss Fight Studio than what we've seen from NECA, at least so far. Let's see, what else? We'll come back to the Snowcat because I want to spend a fair amount of time on that. For you Hot Toy fans, we've got a new Arkham Night Nightwing figure. This is being sold exclusively on the Sideshow Toy website. So I believe it's still available. I haven't checked it since it went up the other day. Yes, $280. So you get Nightwing's weapons of choice. You get some electric effects, things you would expect with a Arkham version, video game version of Nightwing. So if you're into 12-inch figures, again, that one is being sold as a Sideshow exclusive from Hot Toys. Mondo's teasing their vinyl figure, their Slash Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle vinyl figure. We saw that at San Diego Comic-Con, so that's a look at the figure on display at Comic-Con. This is the tease they put up the other day. We haven't gotten details yet, so my guess is this will go up sometime next week. For those of you who are collecting the Mondo stuff, speaking of Mondo, who of course is owned by Funko. Funko is Mondo's parent company. My keyboard is not working. But so Funko had a financial reporting this week, not too good. So the company reported a $41 million loss in the second quarter of this year. They cited primarily the environment with tariffs and everything. But they also, at the same time, this week have hired a new CEO. So they've had an interim CEO since 2023, July of 2023, meaning not a permanent CEO. And but they brought in this new guy. His name is Josh Simon, and his last job was at Netflix, doing product. He worked on product licensing with Netflix. He's also worked at companies like Disney and Nike. So, but they've got a new CEO to kind of right the ship because the company has been basically draining money. Just one second. All right, Solomon was getting into trouble. Um, so we'll see how that goes. What else? What else? What else? Let's jump over to Marvel real quick. So, pre-order yesterday was the 2-pack. Hasbro Pulse, the Gambit Rogue 2-pack, which last time I checked was still available, so it didn't look like that was selling out. Yep, it's still available, $50. Using the NBA, figure body from their NBA line, their now defunct NBA line. I feel like they should have included a shirt, like a removable shirt for Gambit, but oh well. Because I believe he had a shirt on at times during that episode. The next pre-order, Marvel Legend pre-order, will be next week, which will be the next X-Men 97 2-pack. Hold on a second. I don't know what's going on with my keyboard. All right, there we go. So the next 2-pack will be the Wolverine Brown costume Storm figures. That will be going up next week on August 20th. Again, 1 p.m. for premium members, 2 p.m. for everybody. I don't think this will sell out either. $50 also. So that is your next Marvel Legend pre-order. Also, it was announced this week that there's going to be some type of Hasbro panel at the Fan Expo in Canada later this month. So August 23rd is the date. That's a Saturday. The panel will be at 11 a.m. I don't know what time zone they're in there, so but I assume 11 a.m. is whatever the local time zone for that area of Canada. And it's going to be Marvel and Star Wars focus. So I don't know if they're going to be showing off new product. Hopefully, one of the other main objectives of this is that they're going to have the Star Wars Haslab gunship on hand for people to see, and I feel like the Star Wars portion will likely focus mostly on that. So again, I don't know if this panel will have anything new that they haven't already shown people, or if it's just going to be reiterating product that's already been announced at like Comic-Con and stuff. Like I could see them talking about the Mephisto figure for Marvel and the gunship for Star Wars. So we'll keep an eye on it. But again, there is technically, and anyone attending this convention, the Fan Expo Canada, just note that Hasbro will have some presence at it, and like I say, they will be focusing primarily. They're going to have some kind of booth because they said they're going to have on display the Haslab gunship, but I don't know again how big of a booth it's going to be, if they're going to have anything else or what. So not a lot of details, but again, that was announced this week. And while we're on the subject of the Haslab, let's just check in on that one. So that one currently is still puddling along. We are at, let's see, where are we at on this one? Just over 24 days left. And we are at 3,381. So we still haven't gotten halfway on this one. But, again, regardless, the thing about all these crowdsourcing things, the reason why I don't jump on that bandwagon, it's like, oh, this thing's struggling, it's not going to fund, it's because I've seen some of these campaigns where they had over halfway to go, and they get that all in like the last 24 hours of the campaign. So even though this one is yet to reach halfway, even if it hasn't gotten halfway by like the last day or two, I'm still not going to rule out the possibility that this will still end up funding. So we will have to wait and see. It's definitely going pretty slow. It's fair to say it's going pretty slow, but but that it won't fund is not something I would be willing to say. We've talked about this in detail. I think one of the things drawbacks on this one, is the fact that they've done the Republic gunship before, even though this one's bigger. But again, I definitely would not rule out this one funding. It's just going fairly slow. All right, what else do we got? Some NECA figures that were previously only available on the NECA store website are now up at places like Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth. So that Night Watcher April O'Neil, the Body Count Casey Jones, and the Karai Mercenary figure are all now available outside of the NECA store. So again, they had gone up several weeks ago at NECA, but now available again at places like Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth. And then next week, we're supposed to get some new Turtle pre-orders. Mirage comic figures, Raphael Shredder and Cyborg Donatello. So look for those next week. Bakihama, son of Org, Storm, Arena, Hanya Yama, I don't know. But a new Storm Arena figure up at Big Bad Toy Store, $29.99 like usual. Big dude in a suit. So, all right, let's see. Before we get in, Transformers. New pre-orders this week. So these are from Takara Tommy. Both of these Transformers. So the Missing Link, Nemesis Prime, a repaint of the regular Optimus Prime, but Nemesis colors. And then this T-Spark Predaking, which looks pretty cool. Again, this was offered overseas previously, but went out for pre-order at places like Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store. So the Predaking is not cheap. It's $439. I mean, you just kind of look at it and see that it's not going to be cheap. And then the Missing Link Nemesis Prime is also not terribly cheap, $131. So you do get a Decepticon trailer. He's got the Decepticon logos. Again, that's just a repaint of the Optimus Prime. And of course, the Missing Link stuff is done, little jazzed up versions of G1 toys. For you Droid factory collectors, we've got this new Imperial Probe Droid factory figure that's supposed to go up at Shop Disney stores. I believe they've been showing up at some of the Disney parks, Disney stores, but this will be available online August 21st. I don't have a specific time, so I don't know exactly what time on the 21st, but that's when it'll be available. I just want to make sure we've pretty much covered all the other major news. Again, fairly slow month for news as we recover from San Diego Comic-Con. We had a new 112 Collective figure from Mezco go up this week. Franklin Sparky Foreman gangster figure, $116. Let me see. It's you have to join the wait list now. So the initial pre-orders have sold out. Dude comes with multiple heads, hands, cigarettes, lots of cigarettes, old style machine guns, the Tommy gun, a knife, some pistols, a guitar case to hold the weapon, a fish. So everything you would expect from a gangster. All right, so let's finish up with the Haslab G.I. Joe. So again, yesterday was the last day for this one. Final tally looks like it was 16,437 backers. So Flint, the final stretch goal number, both stretch goal 2 and 3 unlocked yesterday. The Bivouac unlocked midday, and then Flint unlocked. There was maybe 3 hours left on the campaign when Flint got unlocked. So all 3 stretch goals, along with Frostbite and the Snowcat itself, will be included for anyone who backed the campaign. So again, fairly successful campaign. Not as successful as previous Haslab campaigns. Just to break it down, so obviously this one took, well, I won't say, like most of them reached their minimum funding goals. Like I think all the previous 3 classified Haslabs reached their previous minimum funding goals in like the first 24 hours or so. But like the Dragonfly actually took quite a while to get through to its final stretch goal. I think it also in the last few hours it didn't unlock the final stretch goal, and they even extended that campaign by a day for some reason. It had already funded with all the stretch goals by the deadline, but for some reason they extended the deadline an extra day on that one. I don't know why. But as far as the Cobra Rattler was the most successful as far as number of backers. It ended up with 26,903 backers. The His Tank was in a close second with 26,762. I don't have an exact number on the final for the Dragonfly, but it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 19 to 20,000 backers. So this one, like I say, it was the slowest, I would say, in backing. Took well more than 24 hours to reach its minimum funding goal, and the number of backers was smaller. But I think it's fair to say that it's because it's not as popular a vehicle than like the His Tank and the Rattler or even the Dragonfly. And, I also, as I said this, the more they do these large vehicles, the more people are going to have less space for them, and the harder it's going to be for them to, get funded. So I think that's just kind of par for the course. But again, all these guys that run onto YouTube and are like, yeah, this isn't going to fund because it didn't fund in the first 24 hours. I don't know, like if they're new to the collecting game, if they haven't observed these Haslabs before or what. But yeah, I was never really worried about this one not funding. But things I wanted to share with you. So yesterday, about midday, Hasbro put up on their Instagram channel a live stream with Lenny and Emily where they answered questions about the Snowcat. The only thing they talked about was the Snowcat and things related to the Snowcat. So I have pulled highlights from that video that I wanted to share with you guys. If you watched that video yourself, you're going to have heard these. But so this first clip I'm going to play for you guys talks about the lighting. So one thing that I don't think they had mentioned before until yesterday was that the Snowcat will have a USB-C port in the bottom of it. This is something that the Ecto 1 Haslab from last year also will have. But that allows you to keep it plugged in basically, so that if you want to keep the lights on all the time, and that will be a function where you can, with like things like the his tank and stuff, you can't keep the lights on all the time. You can push the button, but the lights go off after a few minutes. Even if you hold the button down, the lights still turn off after a few minutes. So you don't have a way to keep the lights on. Even if you had a power source, you can't keep the lights on like the first 3 Haslabs that they did for G.I. Joe, which is a shame, especially with the his tank. I would love that USB C port option for the his tank, but they didn't have it available at that time, but they will for the Snowcat. So again, if you want to keep it on your shelf and have the lights on all the time, which to me, like things like electronic lights and stuff are pretty much a waste of time if you can't keep them on. It's not like I run over and push the button on my Galactus or my Sentinel so I can look at the lights. If I could keep those lights on all the time, I would, and it would be cool as hell. Like I say, same thing with the his tank or the Dragonfly or the Rattler. If I could keep those lights on all the time, I jury rigged the Cat Slayer. So, because the lights don't shut off on that one. It was battery powered, but it has the option of keeping the lights on all the time. So I was able to come up with a way to have a power source so I can keep the lights on the Thundercat on all the time. I turn them off at night. But I don't, the Thundercat is a lot cooler when you can keep the lights on and you don't have to worry about draining batteries after a couple of hours. So the fact that they're adding the USB C port to these, I think is very cool. And it makes the electronics aspect of these Haslabs much more enticing, because like I say, when you can't keep the stuff on, I don't think most people really use the lighting and stuff on those things that often. But anyway, I wanted to play this clip for you. I'm also just kind of testing this out. So let me play this clip for you.
Opportunity for an always-on connection option like USB.
Indeed.
Yes.
I like the way you think, bud.
Yes.
So I'm just going to show everybody. I'm afraid to tilt it.
Here, got it.
But so on the bottom, there's a on-off. I don't know if you guys can see that, and we're going to put a USB.
Hopefully you can hear
USB-C plug.
USB-C. Yeah.
So when you hit that button, it turns on. So you can put it down a little bit.
And then, so these are just like technological advances that we have made in the
Oh,
last
the
couple of
electronics
years.
seems incredible.
It's really cool. So it's not a charging option, but if you would like to have the lights on all the time, there will be you could plug it in
Like a
from
lamp.
a USB-C and basically have it be a lamp, which is really
Yeah.
cool. And we're doing basically life testing on the lights now
Yep.
on the Ghostbusters Ectomobile
Thing's
Haslab.
awesome.
And it's just all the maximalism of the 80s and the 1A roof rack at one place.
Yeah.
But we've had it on for a really long time without turning it off, and there has been like
It's
no
basically a lamp.
degradation.
I've been wanting
Yeah.
them to be lamps since day one.
So I think that's really cool. I actually, because when they did the Ecto one, like they announced the Ecto one at New York Comic Con last year. And at Comic Con, the guy told me that they were going to incorporate the USB-C port on the Ecto one. And so I was like, you know what? If I can keep, because that thing looks awesome when you can keep all those lights on the Ecto one on all the time. So I was like, I'm not that huge of a Ghostbuster fan, but I might actually get one for myself if I can keep the lights on all the time. But then later on, there seemed like there's some confusion, and it seemed like maybe they weren't able to add the USB. So I didn't end up getting the Ecto one, and that's okay. I'm not that big of a Ghostbuster fan. That was before I got the Cat Slayer. I don't know where I would put the Ecto one, but I was glad to hear that they in fact did end up incorporating the USB port option with the Ecto one as well. But I'm looking forward to that feature with the Haslab Snowcat, because I think that really adds to the overall display quality of that item when you have those electronic lights and everything. Now, the next thing, this next clip I want to play for you guys is in regards to, I hear a lot of you guys asking, are we ever going to see these things reissued? Are we ever going to see, a HasLab get reissued in some way? And from listening to these guys, especially when it comes to something like the Hiss tank, definitely it sounds like they have plans to reissue the Hiss tank, probably without the electronics, where it's not quite as expensive. Maybe they take a page from Marvel Legends and do it as a made to pre-order, like we saw Hasbro do with the Sentinel, but doing the Hiss tank in different colors. So not the same traditional black colors as the HasLab, but the Hiss tank over the years has been released in other colors. So I wanted to play this clip. Also sounds like, as far as that Bivouac goes, looks like we might get a reissue of that at some point in green. There's an original G.I. Joe Bivouac toy that was done in the green colors. So it kind of sounded like maybe we'll see that reissued at some point as well. But anyway, listen to this clip.
Classic military. Yeah, why not?
And I think that so what we have always maintained is that the exact version of what you see as part of a HasLab is only available with the HasLab offering. So like the exact versions of what you see as part of a HasLab campaign, it has kind of been our kind of stance that they are only available as part of the campaign. This is the fanciest version of this that will ever exist.
Yeah.
So because we know that there have historically been a lot of tooling reusage across the world of G.I. Joe, like there are so many different Hiss tanks that exist, it would be bananas for us to say, because we did a Hiss tank as a HasLab, you will never ever get another Hiss tank in 6-inch scale. What you won't ever get in 6-inch scale again is another black and red Hiss tank with exactly that level of electronics and premium details.
100%.
So whatever the HasLab version of something is, this is the most premium version that will exist. And in order for another variant to exist in the future, it would need to be not necessarily lesser, but a little bit less premium, a little bit less of a dream.
So there, definitely seems like they have plans to do other versions of the Hiss tank. And at first my thought was, and I still think we may see this at some point, but a crimson Hiss tank in red, they've done crimson stuff in the classified line, so that seems like a good bet. A blue version, that, like, as far as an alternate color for Hiss tank, the blue version seems to be a popular choice. But then they go on to say, talking about whether we're going to see Cobra vehicles to take on, like Arctic Cobra vehicles to take on the Snowcat. And so let me play this clip for you.
The HasLab launch video for the Snowcat, there is a teaser Easter egg hidden in that launch video that may help to answer that question, which we are not allowed to verbalize out loud.
Go on, buy a whole division of Snowcats. See if I can. Destro, slap some white paint on those Hiss tanks and stingers. We're gonna have to dominate some weather.
So, seems like a Hiss tank painted white, an Arctic Hiss tank, which is a toy that they've done before. You can see it here, down here in the corner. That is our Arctic Hiss tank that they did for the 3 3/4 inch line. Using, they reused the Stinger missiles instead of the traditional gun turret. But I could see them definitely doing something like that, possibly repainting the Stinger Jeep as well. But I feel like that might be our first Hiss tank offering in a different color without the electronics and stuff, is an Arctic Hiss tank, since she basically told us, Emily told us, that they hinted to an upcoming Arctic Cobra vehicle. Obviously, it would be just a repaint, not like an actual unique Cobra Arctic vehicle, but a repaint of something in the Hiss tank. Seems like is what she's probably referring to. Again, maybe Hiss tank and Stinger, maybe just Stinger, I don't know, but I feel like Hiss tank. And then the fact that they've done the Stinger missiles already, we actually saw them reuse those Stinger missiles in that recent little G.I. Joe diorama base thing. I forget what they were calling it, but they painted the missiles yellow. And then I could definitely see them doing that here. Final, just a little clip that I thought was interesting was just they gave us a size comparison, a side by side of the HasLab Hiss tank with the Snowcat. So here, and the Snowcat is actually bigger.
Comes through reasonably clear on this. So the Hiss tank is a little bit taller, especially with the turret on the top, but it is significantly narrower.
But wait.
Oh, but wait, there's more.
From a mass standpoint.
Yes, I forgot that part.
From a mass standpoint, it kind of eats the Hiss tank a little bit, if you ask me.
Which is, I mean, it's impressively large.
So you can see that thing. I mean, it's technically probably a little bigger than it should be. You know, the original Snowcat was not bigger, that much bigger than the Hiss tank, but it doesn't bother me that it's a decent size. And they did that so they could store. You know, you can hold this Hiss tank will hold more figures, or not Hiss tank, but this Snowcat will hold more figures than the original toy Snowcat. So, but I thought all that the USB-C, I was very happy to hear that. And then this idea that we're going to get repainted hisses likely, and they didn't give specifics, but I'm going to guess no electronics. So if they wanted to give us a Hiss tank with the electronics and a USB-C port, I would be interested. At least I would be interested in that maybe. But it sounds like we're going to get repainted Hiss tanks, at least maybe white. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if they do red and blue. Probably either will be Hasbro. Like I said, maybe we'll start the whole Hasbro Pulse made to pre-order thing for G.I. Joe, like they've been doing with Marvel. I don't think these will be HasLabs, but either store exclusives or made to pre-order thing is what I would guess we'll end up seeing. And one thing, so I've been thinking about like this idea of like the HasLab and the made to pre-order. Like why can't they do made to pre-order for everything? Why do we? I feel like the HasLab model is getting a little tiresome. The whole crowdsourcing model is getting a little tiresome. I kind of prefer the made to pre-order route. But then it occurred to me the big difference between the HasLab route and the made to pre-order route is I think that they charge you up front, once the campaign ends on a HasLab, they charge you for it. So probably because they want the money so that they can start using it for the production of the HasLab. Whereas a made to pre-order, which is not as big of an item and not as expensive, they don't charge you until they actually ship the item out to you. So that's probably the difference between, and why they basically seem to indicate that if it's a big item, it'll be a HasLab. If it's a smaller item, it'll be a made to pre-order type thing. All right, let me just go through, see where we are at time. And before I go into your guys' questions, I just wanted to say once again a big thank you to everybody who has become an Action Figure Enthusiast channel member. You can see the names of everyone down below. Last count, we're up to 55. So we did a giveaway this week. I've been doing more channel member only content, and we did a giveaway for $100 store credit. Jackie was our winner for that one this week, and I will be doing more of those. I'm not trying to bribe you, but just saying there are perks for spending that 99 cents to become an Action Figure Enthusiast member. So, but thank you to everybody who has done that. And if you're interested in becoming an Action Figure Enthusiast channel member, there is a link in the video description on how to do that. All right, so let's see. Let's just start going through questions. Let's see. Comics saying, love these guys. Huge fan of Infinity Incorporated. I assume you're talking about the McFarlane stuff. We never got a Jada in the DC, or a Jade, sorry, Jada, DCUC collection. So it's great that we finally have this brother and sister pair in figure form. Tarek says, I got Mr. Bones for sure. I wouldn't mind a figure of his modern costume. Oh, I should note, and this is the second time I've seen McFarlane do this. There is, and I think it's still available. It was before I went on, at least. For you folks in Canada, again at EB Games, there is a McFarlane autographed edition of Mr. Bones available, again, only at EB Games in Canada. So it's essentially a Canadian exclusive. And they did this with one of the recent Marvel figures as well, where it was only available at EB Games Canada. So now we're getting exclusives that are country specific and not available in the United States. But there you go. I mean, it's just an autograph version. I feel like Todd's autograph is, he does so many of those autograph figures and stuff that I feel like he's kind of cheapened his own autograph. But there you go. Frankie Rivera got Lady Slither. I assume meaning you backed it before yesterday ended, so you're going to get both parts. Congrats. I didn't back that campaign just because I'm not collecting Origins. As I said before, the Chimera two-headed snake horse is, to me, the coolest thing in that thing. But, it's a cool play set if you're looking for a home for your snake men. It is more expensive than the other play sets at that time. I still say that the version that they showed off last year at Comic-Con is nicer. I would have been more interested to see that one. Though, to be fair, I still wouldn't have backed it because, like I say, I'm just not really doing classified stuff right now. I'm not really doing Origin stuff right now. So, I probably, for me personally, it wouldn't have really mattered. But I just, between the two, if I had to pick one, I would have rather they done the one they showed off last year. Adam says, I hope the Snake Lair funds so that I can buy the Chimera off someone who's interested in it. See, I feel like, I'm not saying if you're willing to pay the money that there won't be people who will sell it, but I feel like you're either going to have to pay a lot of money to buy it separately. And at that point, it might just be better just to buy the whole thing, and then you can sell off the other parts. Mr. Allmine, yep, Salome in the house. She's gone back. I don't know if you can notice, but I put a cat tree back here. You can kind of see it sticking out there. So that's Salome's cat tree, so that she can stay out of trouble and nap comfortably. Automa Tom got my Venkman from Mondo. I've heard good things about it. Somebody else, Toy Newman, who does work on TNI, he got his in the mail, and he seemed pretty happy with it. So I heard, like in an interview, one of the Mondo executives or something was talking about how like we might see a lot more real Ghostbuster stuff next year. But I got to be honest with you, as expensive as those things are, I would be hard pressed to really believe that. But who knows? Maybe. Prince. Yes, I do. They're not in view. They're actually over in a different part of the basement. But I have the two of them. They're connected to each other so people can race each other. But yes, I do. Davey Sockrocker, Mezco fans are diehards because I would never want this, but they make it sell out. Well, they're done very limited, but yeah, I think Mezco has done a fairly successful job of building up a fan base around those. They're essentially their own license of figures. I mean, they're using the 112 scale model, but those, they're not paying any licensing fees on those things and such. So it's their own little thing. And yeah, I think they've done a fairly good job of developing a fan base for them. Automatom, I was really excited for this figure since I collected the Gangsters Incorporated Rotocast figures back in early 2000. Nice. Yeah, I guess the Gangster one isn't part of their own line, but as far as the Rumble Society stuff that they do. That's their own kind of thing. Davey Sockrocker, in this economy, Hasbro has to see this as a big win. I mean, yes, yeah. I imagine Lenny and Emily celebrated a little bit yesterday. Though I will tell you, I didn't save this clip, but they said in the live stream, which again aired like around lunchtime yesterday, they were like, and this was before even, I think this was before Stretch Goal 1 had unlocked, but Stretch Goal 2 had not yet unlocked. But they were like, yeah, the campaign's on par for all 3 stretch goals to be unlocked. So they obviously were seeing something that we hadn't yet seen to suggest, that they were feeling pretty comfortable even midday yesterday that the campaign was going to fully fund. And I think that comes from like overseas backers that they end up adding in. That's one of the things. You don't see that as big a jump with G.I. Joe because G.I. Joe doesn't have as much of an international presence as other brands like Transformers and Star Wars and stuff. But, they always end up, they don't, like, when they talk about it, they act like they add those in like throughout. But I think it's like if anything that's ordered directly through Hasbro Pulse, whether it's Hasbro Pulse in the United States or one of the other outside Hasbro Pulses, those get added in automatically. But they deal with third-party retailers in parts of the world where they don't have Hasbro Pulse yet. And those, I think, don't get added in until like the very last day or so. So often that plays a role in why you see these huge jumps in the last days and hours. AV Sock Rocker, I would love a Hiss tank in Ninja Force colors. Give me more neon. I'm tired of black and gunmetal gray and green. I mean, if that's what you want, that's great. I definitely am not looking for neon colored Hiss tanks, but I don't know if I get it would depend on we'll have to see what the price is. Like, off the top of my head, would I say, do I really want an Arctic Hiss tank for me personally? Just because of space limitations, I would probably say no. I mean, my black Hiss tank work is just as good in the snow as a white one. But like, I think I would be like if they did a crimson hit, like I did not get the crimson guard twins and Baroness 3-pack that they did, but I would, if they did a cool looking crimson Hiss tank and the price was right, I might go back and try and pick those figures up and get that one. I always like the red one. Rouse says electronics are neat, but I'm fine with less elaborate product at a lower price. I like the made to pre-order model better. Yeah, I definitely like the made to pre-order model better. And it's not even for me personally, it's not even about when you get charged. I actually prefer when they charge me right away. That way I don't have to worry about making sure that the money is there a year later. I'd rather they just go on and take the money so I don't see it anymore. But I do just like, it's less drama and, I mean, it's always possible if they got like a total lack of interest in something they offered for made to pre-order that they could come back later and say, look, we just didn't get enough orders for it, and so we're canceling this. But the drama of, is it going to fund? Is it going to fund? I feel like it's kind of grown tiresome. So that's kind of why I prefer the made to pre-order model. What is today? So I checked yesterday on my crystal ball. It still had the date of the 14th for shipping, but then I looked closer and it said available August 15th, which is today. So I don't know if it's not available until today. I don't know how it would ship the day before. I've not checked it today. I've not gotten any kind of email notices saying something is shipped either. But so as of right now, I'm going to say no, it hasn't. And I am definitely growing more and more worrisome that they're going to end up canceling it. But I will check it later and keep you guys updated. But as of yesterday, it had not shipped. Canada, Phil says Canada already got their. Well, that doesn't surprise me. And definitely play. I know like places overseas have had those figures in stock. I mean, those were first shown off at San Diego Comic-Con. They didn't get a lot of exposure, but they first showed them at San Diego Comic-Con. But people, some of the overseas vendors started getting them in stock like literally that same week that they showed them off at Comic-Con. So Ross says at San Diego Comic-Con, Emily said the Snowcat had already hit the production mark, but the tally on the site was not reflecting that. That's interesting because it was still several weeks later before it reached its minimum funding goal, or at least like a week or so. But again, if they're not adding in, like if they have access to see the overseas data that's not getting added in right away, then I think that's where they make statements like that. And honestly, that's another thing where I get like why I don't really like the HasLab model. It's like because I do feel like there is some fear marketing, that they use to try and engage people more. Like, oh, you better back this or it's not going to fund, or you better buy 5 of them or it's not going to fund. So I don't like that drama, and trying to like and there are people who I think they crunch the numbers, they like to try and predict, but I think trying to predict these things because you get such drastic increases at the end. Like I said, I forget which HasLab campaign it was, but there was one where it hadn't even we were like in the last day or two and it had not even gotten to the halfway point. And then like in that final day, it not only reached the minimum funding goal, but it also at least 2 of the 3 stretch goals ended up getting included as well. So, you can just have that drastic of a jump in the last day. So you can sit there and it's like, oh man, this isn't going to fund. It hasn't even gotten halfway there. There's no way it's going to fund in just a few hours, and then boom, and it's funded. So I just, like I say, I just don't, I'm not, I feel like the drama aspect of these HasLabs and any of these crowdsourcing things have kind of been played out. Let's see. I get AA in Australia. You can order HasLabs through EB Games and Zing, but you don't have to pay until it's all is ready to ship. Well, that's probably the retailer you're dealing with. That's probably their choice, and they probably don't want to charge you until they have the product in hand to ship it to you because they don't want to have to refund you. So that's probably the specific retailer's decision not to charge you. They probably had to pay Hasbro up front, but they're choosing not to charge you. And if Hasbro didn't deliver for whatever reason, I'm sure Hasbro would give their money back. But the retailers are probably choosing not to charge you up front for that reason. Steve Arena, I noticed at 11:59 last night, the final numbers were 16,437, then immediately flipped back to 15,758. And now it's, I've noticed that too, where you'll see the number go up and down. And I'm sure that has something to do with when they're adding in numbers, probably adding in numbers, manually, again, likely from the overseas people. But yeah, I've seen that. I've seen it where it kind of jumps up and down. Like when you sit there and refresh it a lot, then it'll jump up and down. Also, and this gets way too technical for me to try and explain it, but the way the internet works, that things don't always update instantaneously for everybody at the same time, and so depending on the network and things like that, the way it caches a page, it can sometimes look off a little bit for that. I'm not explaining it well. It's internet website techno babble, but there are things about, it's kind of like when something goes up for pre-order that's really popular and it seems like it's in stock, and then you go to try and add it to your cart and it's not really there because it's already sold out. it's kind of like that, where like the internet has not yet caught up with the actual system. So on your end, it looks like it's still available, even though it's not really still available. I wanted the engine of vengeance, ditch the electronics, and give us MTO. I mean, obviously we've gotten alternate versions of Goblin Queen and now Mephisto from that campaign, but I'm really kind of surprised they haven't tried to re-release that card. Maybe because they saw somebody like Ramen Toys do their version, and so they feel like they filled the need or something. I don't know, but John, greetings from Ireland. My wife surprised me yesterday with the Snowcat through Hasbro Pulse EU. Nice. I'd say the EU backers are high. Awesome. I hope you enjoy it. We got to wait a year for it, but that's okay, because I don't know where I'm going to put my Snowcat. I've kind of used up all my space back there, so I don't know where I'm going to put the Snowcat. I'm waiting for my Cobra Snake armor to ship, which is yet to ship from Hasbro Pulse. But that's like the next thing I have to try and find space for, is that snake armor. Actually, I don't know if you can see it, but I got my claw back here. It's joined the aerial battle behind me here. So I was actually pretty happy with how that's turned out. The Rattler, the claw fighting, and the Trouble Bubble all ganging up on the Dragonfly with a little help from the Hulk. All right, well, we are over the hour, so I think we're going to call it a day. I will be back on Monday with a pre-recorded video going over a lot of the things that we just talked about here, and anything new that happens between now and then. I'll throw into that video. But for those who can't catch the live stream, I will have the recap video up on Monday. And then as far as the rest of the week, I'm not sure how it's going to play out. I just, speaking of G.I. Joe, I just got this. I ended up getting this from Walmart. They had it in stock. They got it in before anybody else, I believe, at least here in the United States. So I got this one. I've been looking forward to this one. So I may do some type of video on that for channel members next week or something. I've actually got stuff kind of piling up. So, so we'll see how next week goes. But remember, one Marvel, as far as I know of, just one Marvel Legend pre-order next week. The next Pulse exclusive X-Men 97 2-pack. There is a McFarlane pre-order next week, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. I think it's on the 20th, but I don't think they've announced what it is yet. And hopefully that for those of you wanting the Snake Lair, that campaign will be backing or will be reaching its minimum funding goal within the next day or two. So, all right, guys, but I'm going to leave it there. Until next time, stay safe, have a great weekend, and until next time, I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching today's video. Now, if you're new to the channel, please think about hitting that subscribe button. Also, hit the bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. For all the latest action figure news, be sure to head over to ToyNewsEye.com, MarvelousNews.com, JediInsider.com, and TFormers.com. And remember, action figures are great,